Hey everybody, this is our chapter 11 overview. This is the customer-driven marketing chapter. Marketing is very interesting. I mean, you can get a whole degree just in marketing. It's very exciting stuff. The book talks about, what is marketing, right? And you can read the definition of that. Um, but what is customer-driven marketing? The difference really is that keeping our customers in mind in everything that we do as we try to advertise or capture the interest of whoever we want to buy our product. They use a couple different examples here, and they use the American Marketing Association Board of Directors definition, an organizational function and set of processes for creating, communicating, and delivering value to your customers. That's the customer-driven part of this, right? And for managing customer relationships, again, emphasizing relationships with your customers in ways that benefit the organization and the stakeholders. I really think they summed it up when they talked about the department founder, Marshall Field. Somewhere in the reading here, they talked about, said, give the lady what she wants, right? And that's really pretty simple. That's really basically what it is, what it's all about. One key point to keep in mind is that, and they note this in the book too, it's a process that begins with discovering unmet customer needs. And then continues with researching the potential markets. And the part two of this is part one, by the way, if I didn't mention that. Part two is when the other half of the chapter that talks about the research part of this. So then we have to research all of this stuff so that we can, target our markets and define them very clearly so that we don't want things too big or too broad. We want to really zero in on our customers to be able to deliver what it is they need. Well, now, need or want, right? Marketing is really interesting in that way. You may not think you need any of this until you see the commercial, right? Or you see someone else has it. Then you see the commercials like, oh my gosh, I need that. I need 300 pairs of shoes. Well, maybe not 300, 299, right? Ask any woman, right? But the purpose for marketing is really to create what the textbook calls and what we call in the business utility. Utility is a fancy word for value. Marketing is supposed to create some sort of value that you can recognize. Now, the textbook defines that, breaks it down into a bunch of different areas. There's form utility, so we have to create whatever it is in a form that is useful to us. So your tennis shoes wouldn't do you any good if I gave you a pair of shoelaces over here, right, and gave you some rubber over there and gave you some insoles over here and said, here's all the stuff you can make your own pair of shoes. Well, unless you're a cobbler, that's not going to happen. So we use form, we have form utility. We're going to create some form that is useful to you. Time utility. We have to get it to you when it's useful, right? It does not do me any good. And this is a funny story. I was listening. I thought it was funny anyway. Evidently, there was a local establishment that has a comedy night, and they had a guy that was there to do his show, right? He was from Florida. Now, the show was here in Wisconsin, La Crosse area, I believe, somewhere like around January, February, right? And the poor man is freezing to death, right? So he goes to the local store. He's going to get some long underwear. He'd heard about this thing called long underwear. So he's going to install some long underwear because he was so cold. Well, guess what? There wasn't any long underwear out. The swimsuits were out already. So I'm not sure how that provided him with time utility, right? And he was amazed. And evidently, he went on to talk about this in his comedy show that very night. Place utility. It has to be available in a convenient location. That's what we call little gas stations on the corner. We started calling them convenience stations or convenience stores because they not only sold gas, they started selling milk, and now look at Quick Trip. I mean, it's the quintessential, convenience store, right? And then ownership utility, meaning that there are services or in a way that can provide you the ability to buy it, right? Like offering you a credit card to your store. Macy's has their own credit card, Kohl's credit card, JCPenney credit card. Oh my gosh, there's a million of them out there. So that is what another thing of what marketing does is helps provide this thing called utility. The evolution of the marketing concept. There's look at figure 11.1. It talks about the 5 different eras or the history of marketing, and starting in the 1900s going up towards 2015. Production, they really back then sort of felt a good product sold itself. Now, you have to remember too, we didn't have the same technology back then. We didn't have the internet to help advertise or sell anything, right? And then you look at sales was the next era. And the blue and the red shows the degree of emphasis, right? That creating advertising and selling would overcome consumers' resistance and convince them to buy, right? And then we got into marketing, what's called marketing now, not just sales. And there's a difference between sales and marketing. Right now, we're focusing on the marketing part of this. Marketing is a whole bunch of stuff goes on in marketing. It's a huge area, right? Before we can even sell anything, we really have to figure out the marketing side of it. So marketing, that's where the consumer is king, right? And if you see that after about 1950 on this little graph here, it shows that that's when we started to see that emphasis in marketing. And now the social era, ooh, oh my gosh, look at all the advertising. I mean, you talk about Facebook, Twitter, everywhere you turn around, there's a blip in front of you. I don't even remember what the numbers are and how many ads we are exposed to in a day, all right? That's the emergence of the history of the marketing concept. But the bottom line here is trying to find a balance between the goods that we have and then versus the needs or the wants of the consumer. We're always trying to balance that out, right? Now, this book does mention just a little smidge on not-for-profit and non-traditional marketing types. So not-for-profits, they market in a little bit different way because they're really trying to sell a partnership. Perhaps it's for cancer research or whatever it is, or a breast cancer campaign, which I think was just last month or whenever that was, because I remember seeing pink everywhere. I even saw pink on the football field. And you guys can read that. That's pretty straightforward conversation. Now, the non-traditional marketing, there's 5 different categories that they talk about in this textbook. And if you look at figure 11.2, that kind of, it summarizes the points that the book is talking about, like the person marketing. It gives you an example here. And it's really pretty intuitive on what it means. So person marketing, I'm really trying to market a person to you. So, oh my gosh, we're not even having an election until what, next year or whatever it is. And we're being inundated, right, with political ads. Well, that's person marketing. I'm trying to get you to vote for this one person in that case. Place marketing. I think in the book might use the Chicago, and they like tourism, right? You're going to see those ads, and I think Chicago used "come play all day, stay all night," right? Event marketing, again, kind of pretty much what it says. We're trying to market towards a particular event, like races, for example. I do triathlons, so we'll see lots of marketing. Once you're in that world and you start doing those kinds of races, you're going to see marketing, event marketing that's specifically directed towards those of us that race. Think about NASCAR. Oh my gosh. Talk about event marketing, right? And And then cause marketing and organizational marketing. Cause marketing, they're marketing towards a cause, like let's say the breast cancer thing, right? And then organizational marketing, that's just marketing towards, large organizations. We'll see do that. Well, universities, where you guys are all Western Technical College students. If you're looking at this, if you are not a Western Technical College student and you're looking at this at YouTube, you need to get a life, right? But we do tons of advertising that is for our organization, right? So to do all of that, you have to develop a strategy. So look at figure 11.3. That's the one that looks like the dart, the bullseye dart game kind of thing. And this is where we get into developing target marketing, let's start again. Target markets, right? Trying to figure out what our target markets are, and then what should our marketing mix be? So that's what the whole developing the strategy is really talking about. So when you look at that bullseye, you can see that on the outside, it's talking about the political, legal, social, cultural, the technological, economical, marketing, and competitive environments. So that's why it's all on the outside. Those are different areas that we need, or components that we need to consider as part of our marketing efforts, right? Then as you get towards the middle here, we have to try to figure out what our marketing mix is. That's where those 4 P's come in. It's product, promotion, price, or place. Place might be called distribution. We always call it the 4 P's. Actually, there's 5 P's. I can't remember what the 5th one is, but in today's world, we're not using number 5. So we have to decide on what is our product, how will we promote it, how are we going to price it so it's competitive and get you to buy it, right? And then where do we put it? Where do we place it to make it convenient for you to buy? So when you look at, and then we do the same thing. This book talks a smidge about business to business, B2B, business to business marketing. All pretty much works the same way. We're going to focus on the consumer marketing stuff here. If you look at, let's see here, they give us an interesting example. Well, I'll give you a different example. When I was in retail many years ago, and blue jeans were just like crazy. I mean, they're crazy all the time. It seems like every decade there's something new about blue jeans. But back in the 80s, oh my God, before most of you were born, right? And a certain marketing campaign came out with, they were a high-waisted jean. I remember we used to call them. And Brooke Shields was actually the model that modeled these jeans. And it was extremely controversial. She was very young. I think she was about 14 at the time. And the pants were pretty tight, right? That's how they were used to wear them back in the day, right? And so it was really interesting on the pricing of jeans. Now, jeans, you used to think Levi's, Wranglers, things like that. Well, these were Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, if I remember correctly. And it was one of the early times of using a really well-known model to sell blue jeans. Well, the pricing strategy changed dramatically because this wasn't the type of regular blue jeans you were wearing to go, work outside. These were fashion jeans, right? So the way that the marketing changed, the way that they marketed the blue jeans was able to change their pricing strategy. They were able to price it higher, right? So they're break even, and we don't have, in this class, we don't get into break even. Like, how do we decide to price something where we can at least break even, and then anything above that is where, we make a profit, right? But blue jeans was an interesting concept that applied these 4 Ps in a different way back in the 80s. Now, today we see such a change because we didn't have the technology now, which would have really influenced that in a completely different way. Developing a marketing mix for international markets. We don't need to talk too much about that. You can read that part in the book. You talk about, do we standardize our marketing or do we use an adaptation process to our marketing? It just depends on what you're selling and who you're selling it to. But if you're going to be selling in very culturally different markets, you would be wise to use an adaptation strategy, right? Because you want to adapt or create your marketing strategy for this particular market because it may not work in a very culturally different market. And I have to remember the name of Nova. Remember the cars? Now they're hot rod cars. Collectibles, of course. Novas, the old SS Nova. Oh my gosh. I think I might have dated a guy in high school that had an SS Nova. Maybe. Yeah, it was black, I believe. Yeah. I don't think I remember his name, but I remember his car. But if I remember correctly, in Spanish, it means no go, right? So they didn't even think about the way that they named the car to sell it in an international market, because back then we weren't necessarily doing that in a big way. But you don't do it at all if you name a car and it turns out that that word in another language means no go or doesn't work or something. So you want to probably look at an adaptation strategy if you're going to be marketing to different international markets that are very different. Now that takes us up to the marketing research section. So this is part 1, and part 2 I'm going to talk about marketing research, because right now you kind of just have an idea of what marketing is. We think about advertising, how do we get our products in the hands of our consumers. Well, now the market research part 2, we'll get into, well, okay, then how do we make those decisions? What are we basing all of this on? How do I know where to place my ad to get the best value for my ad dollar? Okay, so until next time, this is part 1. Part 2, market research, and we'll see you then.